are listening to the Bleach Brothers podcast, hosted by Jake the Hater and B-Word.
Hey, what's going on, Jake? It looks like you kind of stole the intro there, man.
Dude, you always talk about me stealing, but you realize that we're co-hosts, so it's, it's back and forth, bro.
You know, it's just a weird thing for me because what you're doing is like I'm prepared to hear myself and I hear your voice. And it's like, when you sit on your hand and you let it fall asleep before you touch yourself. It's kind of like that. Yeah, you give yourself a stranger. It's kind of like one of those, and I'm just not prepared for it. But
well, just
good
so you're
job
aware.
on the intro. I actually like the intro, man.
Thanks, man. But before I touch you, I'll sit on my own hands too. So it's a stranger to everybody then.
I appreciate that. It's like a first encounter of the second kind right there.
Yeah, I'm not doing too well today though. I don't think I don't know. It's one of those days.
Oh yeah.
Well, the Knights, I gotta throw it out to somebody right now. The bottom of the lineup, boys. You can suck it.
Yeah.
The Golden Knights came back to a win, so there's that. I mean, but you know me, that ongoing battle will go on forever. And
but
I made
it to yourself.
Well, I always do. I mean, I'm the when I let hate out, I let it out full bore. I don't hold back.
Well, okay, but for the audience who's not following you on any social media, I have to set this because. I mean, I was laughing all throughout until you did one thing, and I've only called you on one thing. And man, in sports, you and I have not really bantered back and forth for a little while, but you put your face on Money Mayweather, right?
Yep.
And you put Will Burtz's face on
Logan Paul.
On Logan Paul, and that's the point that you got too cocky for your own pants, buddy.
I know, but you know what? It's all in fun, and it's also like, as I posted on the social, I was going to call them out all day, but they're doing a good podcast. I'll throw it out to them over there. I'm sure they're giving us love too. I'll give them some hate too, but we'll see how this series goes. Even if this series is over, that's the thing I think people don't get. I'm not an Avs fan, but the other mistake I made. So I went golfing, right? B-word, and that wasn't the issue. I'm not a bad golfer, but I ate a hot dog at 6 a.m.
Oh,
and. Have you ever done the 6 a.m. like hot dog or not a breakfast burrito, like an actual, like something like that where it's like the heartburn and the bad feelings and your day, it's just not going to get going?
All I know, man, is you just talked about putting a wiener in your mouth at 6 a.m. and that's
Okay.
where you lost me.
This is where you need to sometimes stop doing the home chubby and listen and realize. I went golfing and I was like, I'm hungry. And you look, and you've been to golf courses. The menu
man.
is
Yeah,
not,
they don't have food. They've got like
five
chips.
things. They got chips,
They've got
snacks.
chips, crackers, vodka, beer.
Yeah,
and
so
maybe some
I got a
raisins.
Monster and a hot dog. So I just made two horrible life decisions.
So you had a Monster hot dog?
I had a Monster hot dog. Well, and I put raw onions on my hot dog. So I love raw onions and mustard.
This is
so this is why this is terrible.
This is just turning out to be bad. Like, first off, it was like, I like wieners in my mouth at 6 a.m. And then it's like, and I like Monster wieners. And now you're like, and I like Monster wieners that are raw. And this is just turning out to be worse than anything, dude. Where are you going with this?
Here's what I'm saying. This is why my day is so horrible, because I woke up and the first thing out of my mind was, let me get a Monster and a wiener in my mouth with raw onions on it at 6 a.m. and then try to play a really hard game and think this through. And then I didn't feel good all day. I mean, it reminds me of
Monster wiener, raw and hard. That just came out of your mouth.
So speaking of a hot dog story, I got one real quick if you got a second. So I drove my mom, like, she's been moving around like between the kids and like just traveling, right? Enjoying the gypsy hippie life, I guess. So when she was heading back to Vegas to go down to run a bar for the family in like Flagstaff, I decided to drive with her. I had some free time, from work, and so I was like, hey, it'll be a good bonding trip. So we drove down. So we're driving through. We went through Idaho, and then we were going down through northern Nevada. And Battle Mountain, right?
Oh yeah, I've been there several times.
So we drive up to it, and of course the E's missing from the Battle Mountain sign. So I already said that's the downfall there. And then you see all the meth heads hanging out the one Chevron station where everybody's stopping. And we walk in, and my mom, no joke, goes, "I'm really in the mood for a hot dog." And
that's a bad town to say that.
Like I just on the road. I'm just thinking, really? And so she goes in, and mind you, I changed the word for the story to make it better. I'll just be upfront with that. But we walk in. and my mom's looking at the wieners at the counter. Right?
Okay.
And they're the rolly, greasy wieners, the ones that are on
the ones that got the
belt.
jelly on them that
Yeah,
because they've been sitting there all day.
And they got weird things. There's like a Bahama Mama one that's like I don't even know. They were like the weirdest wieners I've ever seen. So my mom is just staring at these things, and my mom's already like a midget. She's tiny, so she's barely over the counter. She just turns around and goes, "Don't you guys got any normal wieners around here?" And so then she walks up and she goes, "What are these wieners?" And so then there's this girl that's 16 years old or whatever, working at a gas station in the summertime in Battle Mountain, loving life, with my mom and her standing staring at wieners and going, I don't know, and trying to describe the better. So I just got to go outside. My mom's like, "You're going to leave?" I go, "I don't need to be involved in this wiener conversation."
Oh, man.
So then she comes back to the car, and I'm sitting there, and I go, "You didn't get it?" She goes, "They didn't have the kind of wiener I wanted. Let's just go." And so then we drove. Now, I tell this story to everybody. That my mom always goes, "I did not say wieners 19 times. I said hot dogs." But the story...
It sounds so much better with wieners.
So much better. But no, I don't know. Hot dogs are good, but there's only one place I like to have them. Maybe two. Okay, I'll buy like I'm I guess a smug hot dog person. Like last night I actually made hot dogs for dinner, but I buy like the boar's head uncured, like the ones that look like in the window of cartoons, right? They're all stuck together.
Right.
But baseball games. Essentially.
Love a hot dog at a baseball game.
Hot dog and a beer, maybe some chips is probably one of the best things. The only place that it tastes the greatest in my opinion.
So I'm there with you because I think that there's not much that replaces, especially on a warm summer day or even a warm summer evening, there's not much that replaces that chili beer that's in your hand, and the chili dog or the hot dog or whatever you put on your dog, and just watching the game and hearing the bat hit the ball. I mean, to me that's America, right? Because that's
Bald Eagle Freedom Party.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So yeah, but I'll tell you what, man, I'm pretty generic when it comes to baseball stuff, like baseball food, concession food in general. We talk about movies quite a bit, and when I'm at the movies, I have popcorn and a soda, or I have nachos and a soda, and it really doesn't waver from that. And the same thing when we go to a ball game, it's a hot dog and a beer, or it's some nachos and a beer. Occasionally, maybe a pretzel and a beer. But what do you normally get at the concession stand?
So you said two things, and I want to make 2 points here. I thought forever I was a nacho guy. I always, and I maybe it's that thing I want to be. Because I like that crappy Gales brand cheese, that canned cheese.
Oh yeah,
that they use.
Government cheese, absolutely.
I don't mind it, but I don't like eating nachos. I don't ever like eating those nachos because, one, I make a mess of myself. We've already talked about me with my hands. Two, the cheese gets cold by the time you actually try to get through anything.
That it does too. Yeah,
and
you're right.
That's the word. It's almost like ice cream melting on your hands. The cold cheese on crappy nachos just is a downer. And the third thing is just I like the ease of carrying something back to the seat. Because when I go, I usually go with people, right? I don't go to the games a lot. I go with my wife or my kids or whatever. So I like to. I consider myself that dad that goes and gets everything for everybody. Maybe somebody goes with me, but rarely. I'll let them enjoy and I'll come back. So I gotta have. And so carrying nachos and then everything else you got to. It's like no. Like I know, like my one daughter likes that giant licorice rope, so I always get that.
Oh
but I'm a pretzel guy. And
I like pretzels.
Mainly, my wife's from New York, so she's a really huge pretzel fan. The first time we went to a ball game together, that's what she got for us. Hot dog is up there too. But I've gotten to the point, and maybe it's just like I'm more of a curmudgeon these days. I don't like to put things on my own food myself. Because as a chef, I do it for people. So when I have to get a hot dog, then I got to get the mustard and the ketchup. I got to do everything myself.
So what do you normally put on a hot dog, though?
Like raw onions, mustard, and I do put ketchup on a hot dog.
You do put ketchup on a hot
dog? And then I love hot peppers on it. And just like banana peppers, just with the stem, everything, I'll just eat that whole thing.
So
that's it.
One of my first jobs was at Wiener Schnitzel. And, we had for fast food, we had a few different types of hot dogs, and we had the all beef hot dogs. And then we had the hot dog that was made with like the rat, like fat from wherever it came from, and then we had Bratwurst and Polish dogs and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
And you just don't find a really good sauerkraut anymore. I mean, you probably do because you could probably make it pretty well. But for me, I just there's not many places that specialize in sauerkraut, and so if you have sauerkraut at a ball game and you're able to get that on a Polish dog or a bratwurst, that's the jam, dude. And really on a hot dog, I'll put ketchup on it occasionally, but I'm pretty big on just mustard and onions, or mustard, onions, and peppers. I think it's really good that way. But I've seen where ball games they'll actually, or ballparks, sorry, they'll actually put like pulled pork on it, or they'll do, all this sort of fancy stuff on a hot dog. And for me, man, like just leave it at 1776. It's a hot dog, a bun, and just a couple different things on top of it, and then you go from there. But I'm like you. If I can't carry everything back to the seat, then I probably just don't want it, or somebody's not getting it.
I agree. Now, the only thing I will say is there's a website I follow. There's certain things that you look up online, and it's called stadiumtalk.com.
Yeah.
And they actually went through and made a list of every baseball stadium, or the top 25 baseball stadiums, their food. But what they did is they didn't just take they have the best burger and they have the best pretzel, and they took their stadium dish. So,
So what they're known for, basically.
So what they're known for, and I thought of it after reading this list, and I know I sent you a copy, and I wanted to go through. I'm going to ask you a few of them and see what you think. But to be honest, as a chef, I've just thought about it. It's a dream gig to take a 1776 staple, as you said, right, a hot dog, and then make your own spin on it, and it become big. The Cleveland Indians have a hot dog that's on the list, right? It's called the slider dog. Now, let me tell you what's on this, and then you can make your opinion afterwards. But it's a beef hot dog, right?
All right.
Pimento macaroni and cheese, bacon, and Fruit Loops.
What?
Yep.
You lost me at Fruit Loops.
Like, oh, dude, they lost me at the photo. I look at the photo. Well, see, I don't also want mac and like you said, there's certain things you don't need to put on it, and they're putting so much where it's like that's a chef being like, yeah, I'm a ballpark chef. This is gonna be our signature. And they go, what are you going to put on it? And he just made it up. And I think it sells out. You know why? Because it's weird. And people want something different and weird. And a ball game's a perfect place for that. But I mean,
So the Reno Aces, right? So I live in Carson City. The Reno Aces, it's a minor league baseball team. And we have an Aces dog, I think is what it's called. And candidly, with COVID, I haven't been up there. I wasn't there last year. I haven't been up there yet this year. I plan to, but I don't really remember what's on the hot dog. But more notable for me is that they actually make a hot dog that's half an Aces dog and then half the visiting team's hot dog. So they'll mix and match all of these different toppings on half of the dog for whatever their staple is. And I think that's kind of cool. If you want to do something like that, because then you can experience it and you can have all these different tastes. So I've had that a few times. But again, man, a hot dog is a hot dog. You really can't mess up a hot dog as long as you don't mess up the hot dog. You know what I mean? Like the moment you start putting everything in the pantry on the hot dog, you've lost me.
Well, it's like when you get too weird, right? So let's rank it this way. So hot dog's number one for you, right? So let's just say you had to do the top 3 concession stand food for you. What is it?
I would definitely go with a hot dog. And if there is like sauerkraut and onions and all that sort of stuff available, I'll do that first. If not, then a chili dog or a coney dog, I guess it's called somewhere. So that's number 1. Number 2 for me would be a pretzel. I think that if you get a nice hot pretzel that's soft and salty, and you're able to munch on that throughout the game, that's pretty cool. And then third would be the nachos. But the nachos, see, now unlike the hot dog, I like everything on the nachos. So give me the chili, give me the cheese, give me the peppers, give me the jalapenos. Like let's just do it all up, because I think at the end of the day your stomach's probably going to hurt off of nachos anyway. Let's just go for gold here. I don't see any reason why you don't just stack up the nachos.
I got you. See, mine's going to be pretzel first, right? Because also I'm not looking to get full at a game. I'm always one of those guys. I always go out to eat right after a game.
Right.
I always think it's fun. Plus, also, then you don't have to worry about, like, I always find restaurants near stadiums. Like when I go to the Blazer games up here, I know all the restaurants in the neighborhood, and I know they can get packed. But usually, I'll head out and hit up one of them at least, so I'm not in that traffic trying to get back on the freeway or whatever. Number 2 is pizza.
Oh yeah, pizza's pretty good.
Only because it has everything I want. It's tasty. It's greasy. It's still, to me, as American as hell, right? Because I'm just getting the basic. I'm getting either cheese or just pepperoni, right?
Right.
I'm not going all crazy. And it's mobility is really what does it for me. You can fold it. You could do it. Like, I know the St. Louis Cardinals have, they're famous for their giant slice. I don't remember what they call it, but it's like a massive slice of pizza that they serve. And then number 3 is going to be any type of chicken dish. So, like, I like chicken strips or a chicken sandwich.
Oh, yeah, chicken strips are
or
fine.
chicken wings, something like that. And not like the saucy wings, but like, I don't know. I think it's a healthier meat. I enjoy it, and it's just that's the same thing. It's a pretty easy to move around. You don't have to put a lot on it because, like, I love burgers, right?
I think burgers are good, but I don't think that they're cooked well everywhere.
Well, that, but also I just don't want the mess and the hassle of having to put all the stuff on it and all that. I just don't enjoy it. Like, there are places like one of my favorite sandwich places up here is called Lardo, and they do specialty, like, higher end sandwiches, and they're in the Blazer Stadium, and I'll get one when I'm there because I just love their stuff.
Sure.
And it's easy to carry. It's like a nice sub, like a Cuban sandwich would be great at the stadium and stuff. But I don't know. Those would be my top 3, and it's more just about getting to the seat, being able to sit down and watch the game, and snack. Just like you at the movies, I'm just going to get popcorn and soda. At a game, I'm going to get a pretzel, a hot dog. And I didn't name hot dog on my list because I know I can get one, but I still have to put things on it. And, it's not that I'm lazy. It's just that aspect bothers me. But like on this list, right, that I'm going to go back to really quick, and we're going to post this up, but we'll put a link up to it. Most of them are known for burgers, right, when you're scrolling through it.
There are quite a bit of sandwiches on this list.
The one thing I do like, though, is that a lot of them are now starting to go with, like, their area. So, like, the Marlins do sushi.
Yeah, I saw that, yeah.
The Rays do a Cuban sandwich for that. Mm-hmm. But, like, the Detroit Tigers have a chili cheese dog wrapped in an egg roll deep fried.
I saw that, too. That looks like a heart attack, dude.
It looks amazing. But my favorite, and I've had this one, is up here in Seattle. Of course, we're a little weird up here. They do fried grasshoppers. And you get,
I think
and that's
that
what you
was
get.
one of the first times that I was speechless when you were talking about food. Fried grasshoppers?
Oh, dude, they're so good. Fried bugs are delicious. I'll tell you that right now. And maybe one day when
Are they chocolate covered, or is it just
no? They're just
fried.
They're Asian style. It's like Thai style. So usually we would just do it with, like, salt and chilies and stuff like that. So it's actually a salty, like, spicy snack.
Okay.
And, it's like almost like having salted spicy peanuts or anything. So, yeah, they just give you a bowl of that, and it's delicious. The only other one I want, and I don't think I'll ever step foot in the stadium, is the Tres Leches milk shake at the Yankee Stadium. And there's 3 reasons. 1, it looks damn good. 2, it's massive, and it has a churro straw hanging out of it.
Oh, wow.
But 3, it's only $14, and you get a cup that you take home. And you know this too. That's the other thing that bothers me, and the reason I go with more foods like pretzels and stuff, even though those are still expensive. Everything's an arm and a leg at a game.
Right.
I mean, what the hell? And when I was looking at this list,
expensive.
You're looking at some of the burgers are like $27. I'm like, I'm never going to pay $27 for a burger unless I'm in a sit-down place.
Right. Well, and it's the same way with drinks too. I mean, and I'm not talking about, well drinks and that sort of stuff. I'm talking about just sodas, and the markup on soda is incredible anyway. But the fact that you're charging $10 for a large soda or whatever it might be, it's an expensive thing. But I real quick, I want to transition to just one real quick thing about concession food. Neither you nor I talked about this. And I kind of feel like it's a shame that neither one of us talked about it. Do you eat peanuts or Cracker Jacks?
Not Cracker Jacks anymore, and the reason is I used to get them as a kid a lot, and their prices suck. And when you eat something too much?
Yeah, just.
I had Cracker Jacks all the time because I was a baseball kid, and so I had sunflower seeds and Cracker Jacks all the time, right?
Right.
It was a staple for stadium, and so it's one of those things. I'll eat it, and it doesn't. I don't throw up if I have it, but it almost makes me sick because I've had so much in my life that I'm like over it.
See, and I'm not a big fan of Cracker Jacks just because it's more sweet than salty, and I don't think that it's a balanced mix there.
Okay.
But I love the peanuts, and it doesn't make my top 3. But I do think that peanuts are really good, especially if you're peeling the shell off and you're eating it right out of the shell. I think it's really good.
Okay, so do you like so if we're on peanuts, do you like them shelled or unshelled?
Shelled.
Okay. Do you like them? Are you like me, or you like the shells all salt? Do you put the whole shell in your mouth and break it, and then pull the shell out, or do you crack the shell in your hands and just pull the nuts out?
So we started off with wieners.
Okay, no, don't. This is a true question. Do you?
No, I like the shell a little salty, and I like to kind of break them up and then eat it like that, and then spit out the shell. But I kind of mix and match. So I do break out the shell, and then I'll eat it. Yeah, I don't stick with one.
What's more exciting than finding the triple nutter?
Oh man.
You know, like when it looks like a freaking pea pod, and you're opening, you're like, and then even better on that is when they're all good. You don't get that little rotty peanut, that little,
and then the little hard one that's useless that you can't even do anything with.
Yeah, it's like it's the Lance Armstrong of nuts. I mean, that's the truth. Yeah. Every time I open it, I just go, "Oh man, dude, this one took the Lance Armstrong roids."
Oh man, yeah.
that's the growth hormone they were using that farm.
You know, I think the only to answer your question, like if it was a legit question, the only thing that's more exciting than that is a close game. I mean, because honestly, if I get the 3 nutter, that's a good day. It's almost like a good luck charm.
Right now, do you like boiled peanuts?
I've never had boiled peanuts.
Oh, they're so good, dude.
Are they?
It's so it used to be like an old like concession street food, and so the one thing I've noticed, it's more East Coast.
Right.
And they hang on, it's not that they hang on to traditions better, they're just traditions were there, and then people moved west and things change a little bit or whatever, right? But yeah, it's a big thing over there. They used to just have just like hot dog stands on the side of the road, they'd have boiled peanut stands. And I've had them, and I've had them in the South, and they are so good, dude. It's just a different, and it's like also like things like I learn as a chef too. Like I sell peanuts to people, right? And I talk to them, and like there's dry roasted, and then there's like salted oiled, and that means they're partially like fried in oil.
Really?
Before, yeah, and like, so there's things that, like, I just, you know what I mean? Like, there's so many things you could do with a peanut that I'm just like, wow, I just thought, you just put them all in the oven and salt them and you're done. And no, like, and then when I had boiled ones, it just blew my mind because it's just totally different feel. But that's also like, if you want to go down that rabbit hole and you try like Spanish peanuts compared to, different ones, it's just, they're just different flavor profiles and all that. But yeah, that's one of those snacks of the game. I think though, if I was going to choose between the two, I'm still going to go sunflower seeds over peanuts at a game.
See, I never really got into sunflower seeds. Even as a kid, it wasn't a thing that I did. However, my daughter loves sunflower seeds, so I mean, maybe it just skipped a generation. I don't know.
I eat the, but also I was the guy, I would pack the whole one side of my mouth, and so it's funny when I eat them still to this day. I can only pack one side of my mouth and then chew like a chipmunk, and then chew them on the other side. And if I try to switch, it never works. And I like the cracked black pepper spits.
Okay.
Sunflower seeds.
Yeah.
Those are probably, I mean, the ranch is okay, but it's one of those things that gets a little overpowering. I do not like the dill pickle. I mean, I like pickles. I just don't love pickles. I'm not one of those people.
Right.
Barbecue is good. I mean, all flavors of sunflower seeds are good, but playing baseball, I think really turned it on to where, that was things you did. I didn't like to chew tobacco. It just was boring to me, and I didn't see the point. You weren't allowed to do it, growing up, like on a lot of fields anyways. Right. You get kicked off the field. But I was a big sunflower guy, especially because I don't like chewing bubble gum. So that was the other choice of ball players. Because I am a child and irrational, and I swallow gum. So my wife even like one time I was like, she's like, you're not allowed to have gum, and I felt like a 3-year-old in a 7-Eleven store, and everybody's looking at me because I'm a 6'3" adult man looking down at my wife, going, I just want the bubble gum. She's like, you can't have the bubble gum because you swallow it. And I'm like, no, I won't swallow this time. She goes, you always say that. And then you swallow it. And I do, because it's just, the texture is so great. It just feels like food. And then all of a sudden it's gone. And I don't know what to do.
You're a man-child, Jake.
I do. There are times in my life, like I listen, like now that we have this show, I listen to myself. And I feel bad for you, B-word. I feel bad for my wife. I mean, some of the shit I say is just like, really, is that a real person?
I know you just set me up to slam on you right there, but I'm going to take the higher road and just say that I actually sometimes, infrequently, on occasion, appreciate you. So, we'll just kind of leave it there. But I have a question for you, because we started talking about ball fields and their concessions. Do you like baseball movies?
Oh, dude, what do you think? I love baseball movies. Baseball was my life. So, yeah, I love baseball movies.
So I love sports movies in general. Like, I will watch any sports movie. But I was kind of thinking that if we're going to start talking about baseball, and it's the season right now, right? Like, baseball's happening. Yeah. Like, it's
summertime, baby.
Absolutely. So I'm going to challenge you, man. What's your top 5 baseball movies?
That's tough. There's so many good baseball movies, right? And I've been down this road before, not with you, but a lot of baseball geek friends of mine or whatever, and
right.
People hate my list because I don't always pick the most. My number 1 movie is Bull Durham, which is probably number 1 on everybody's list. It's Kevin Costner, who that's the one thing too. If we're gonna do a side note, the best baseball actor in movies is Kevin Costner.
I will agree with you there. However, and this is where we're gonna argue, Bull Durham doesn't even make my honorable mentions.
Have you seen that movie?
I have.
Okay, but you weren't a baseball player, right?
I was not a baseball. Well, I played baseball, but I wasn't.
Right,
but once I got to high school, I didn't play baseball.
Right. So, like, this is one of those movies I like to tell people. It's like when some people say he's a comedian's comedian, or that's a chef's chef. That's a baseball person's baseball movie.
I'll give you that. It's a great movie.
Yeah, it's just you relate to every part of it.
I agree with you. I just think that there are probably 10 better movies than Bull Durham.
10. Wow. Okay. Well, number two for me is For Love of the Game. And that doesn't make a lot of people's lists. It's more a romantic film, but Kevin Costner in it again. But that's because I was a pitcher, right? And I was getting scouted, and I did well in baseball. And I will say that was probably the movie I related to the most because he was a pitcher. And the whole movie's about him pitching one game, right? Okay. And of course, Hollywood, they make it like, a perfect game or whatever.
Oh, sure.
The love story and all that. But it goes back and forth and it's a great movie in my opinion. But just watching how he pitches and like goes through his head and like talks about things in the life, that reminded me of when I was on the mound. Because I mean, you're up there, you have a team behind you, but you're also on your own. It's a chess game against you and the batter and the umpire sometimes figuring it out.
It's a pure sport. It's a pure sport for that reason. But that's also not even in my top 5.
Okay. Number 3, The Sandlot. I think that's just
got me, man.
That's one of those movies.
Yeah.
It's like, it's the childhood favorite. There's nothing wrong with it. It's quotable. There's so many relatable characters. You could pick one and you're one of those friends. And even though sometimes you're like, I'm not Squints or I'm not that. I mean, everybody wanted to make out with Wendy Peppercorn.
Oh, yes. Yes, and it's actually, I think it's peppercorn, like with an F.
Whatever.
But,
I knew I was going to say
No.
Right.
I literally could be wrong on it, but I've always said peppercorn, and it very well could be peppercorn. I don't know, but anyway.
Number 4 is 8 Men Out, which is a true story.
That one either. See, you're not even close to sinking my battleship in this game, so we're good.
Have you seen 8 Men Out?
I've seen parts of it. In all fairness, okay. I've not watched the whole movie.
I think you would like it. Charlie Sheen's in it. It's got almost that mob feel because it's the true story when the Black Sox, as they call them, the White Sox, threw the World Series for money.
Yep.
With the mob and betting. And then number 5 is not on a lot of people's list, but it's one of those. It's just one of those movies I can always pop on. Billy Crystal made it. It's 61, and it's about the home run race between Roger Maris and Mickey Mantle. I love the actors in it, and one of my favorite quotes out of a baseball movie is when Mickey Mantle says, "I like chicks with small hands because it makes my dick look bigger." And when I heard that quote in junior high, I think I said that everywhere I went, even when I'd get in trouble for it. And I love that movie. That movie is one of those, it's so great. If you haven't seen that one, I would highly recommend it.
It is a great movie. Still not on my top 10. And you're going to hate me for this. You're going to hate me for this.
Tell me yours.
Number 1. Field of Dreams.
See, and that's the argument I get with people. Everybody throws that movie up there, and it's a good movie.
Dad,
don't get me wrong.
Can we have a catch? Gets me every time, dude. Every time. So Field of Dreams. 2, Sandlot. Okay.
That's, I
so we agree there. Number 3, A League of Their Own.
Oh, see, that I want to make on my list. But it's softball, technically baseball, right?
It's not softball, dude. They're pitching overhand.
I know they are. Okay, I was finishing my point. But all I remember, I would watch that movie over and over again. It just...
You watch the movie for Rosie O'Donnell.
That's right, dude. Tesla truck, baby. We're going to bang it out. No, the Tom Hanks piss scene is probably one of my favorite scenes in that movie.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
Especially when Madonna's timing him, like it's like going to turn her on or something.
Uh-huh. Shut up, Dolores.
It's a great movie. Don't get me wrong. I love that movie. It's just, I guess the purist in me is, and I'm not saying it's not baseball, and I'm not trying to sound sexist here. It's just, I don't relate to it in that way, if that makes sense.
I think you're wrong, but that's okay.
Okay, yeah, all right.
So number 4, 42, Chadwick Boseman.
I have not seen that movie.
It's a great movie. And I won't even criticize you for not seeing it. I'm just going to encourage you to see it because I really thought that was a great movie. I thought the performance was excellent. The storyline's obviously, based on a true story, but I thought it was a great movie. So watch it and then we can discuss at a later point.
Yeah, because I've sat down. You ever have those movies that you sit down and turn on and you've just never been able to, like I've seen scenes of it. I've just never been able to actually watch it fully through because something's happened, been interrupted or fell asleep, stuff like that. So never have seen that one. Okay, so what's your number 5?
So before I give you number 5, I got to throw out an honorable mention. Okay. So my honorable mention is going to be the Bad News Bears with Walter Matthau.
Never seen that movie.
So they remade it with Billy Bob Thornton. Okay. But I just thought I saw the Walter Matthau one before the Billy Bob Thornton one, and I just thought it was a feel-good movie. It kind of had that feel of like the Little Rascals a little bit. So for me, that was really good. But my number 5, Trouble with the Curve, Clint Eastwood, Amy Adams.
That's a good movie with Justin Timberlake. Yeah, my wife and I watched that last year. It's a good movie. It's almost like one of my honorable mentions. I got one. It's called Summer Catch.
Yeah, with Jimmy Fallon.
No,
that's not the one with Jimmy Fallon. That's
Fever Pitch.
Fever Pitch.
Summer Catch is with Matthew Lillard.
Yes.
With Freddie Prinze Jr. and Jessica Biel.
Yeah,
and
Jessica Biel.
It's a bad it's
terrible.
a bad teen. Here's the thing though, there are a few scenes like the guy who admits he likes fat chicks. Yeah, that's awesome. There's just good scenes in it, and it's one of those. It reminds you of like your teenage years, I guess.
Sure.
So that was one of my honorable mentions. I just threw it in there. Like that was my number 5 on it because I have 5 on a list of honorable mentions. That was the bottom one. But I figured I'd throw it out because same.
I too have a list of honorable mentions, and I said the Bad News Bears with Walter Matthau, right? That's number 1 on my honorable mentions. Did you say your number 5 movie? Yeah, it was Trouble with the Curve.
Okay, sorry, yeah, you did. Sorry, go ahead. So finish your. No.
So I'm just gonna list off the rest of my honorable mentions, and then we can talk about them after you list off the rest of yours. Okay. So I've got Angels in the Outfield.
Okay.
And the reason why is that movie's nostalgic for me. That was a fun movie in a time period when I can enjoy it for what it was.
What's rent again?
Yeah.
I love that little boy.
Yeah. I've got Major League. I think Major League is a fun, comedic baseball movie. I think it's out of bounds quite a bit, but I also think it's really good. Rookie of the Year, I thought was great. Rookie of the Year is when he breaks his arm, you remember?
Yeah, I hate the Cubs.
Well, that's fine. That's fine. But I thought it was a good movie. But to finalize my list out here, I actually have Moneyball on the list with Brad Pitt.
That's a good movie. It reminded me of so the last 2 movies you mentioned actually remind me of The Theory of Two. Moneyball reminds me of Draft Day with Kevin Costner.
Yep.
Came out around the same time.
Yep.
And what was the one that you said?
Rookie of the Year.
Rookie of the Year reminds me of Little Big League.
It does. Yep.
Where he runs the Minnesota Twins.
Yep. I was thinking the same thing. Yep. So what's the rest of your honorable mentions?
So number 1 is Field of Dreams because I love the movie. It's just it doesn't make it's not something I'm going to pop in all the time. And that's the whole point of this. What are the ones I could watch over and over for me, right?
Okay.
That are my top. Because I think the one thing that people, and I could be wrong here and tell me what you think, is when people make a list, they just name out the best one. But like for me, it's watchability. What can I watch over and over and just enjoy it every time?
Yeah.
And Field of Dreams, I don't reach for all the time. I own it, but I put in Bull Durham before it. I put in For Love of the Game before it, all those. Number 2, you're going to hate me. And I did it because you also know I love bad movies. And this is probably this is actually the worst baseball movie of all time. I'm not going to deny it.
But you watch it frequently.
Oh, it's one of those. So for me, it's an honorable mention. It's Ed.
Oh, no. Really?
With Joey from Friends. And the best part is,
man,
the monkey isn't even, or not a monkey, sorry. The chimp isn't even a chimp. It's a guy in a suit. The whole movie.
I cannot believe that Ed made your list.
It's so good because it's so bad, people.
Oh man,
the chimp is like it's just a man hunched over.
So are you a fan of Dunstan Checks In too? Like, is this just a thing with you about monkeys?
Yes.
Are you really? Oh my god!
And they're not monkeys; they're apes.
Okay, whatever. They're mammals.
Number 3 is all the major leagues, and that's the reason it doesn't make my list, because I actually like 2 a lot.
You like the second one?
3 is good. Well, the second one it's the thing about Major League is it's not about really the movie; it's more about the characters.
Right.
Like, I remember when they bring in the Japanese guy,
mm-hmm.
and him and Serrano get into it, and me and my brother used to mimic that scene even on the baseball field when he goes, "You have no marbles.
Uh-huh.
You have no marbles." He's running down the baseline like a monkey, showing that he has no balls.
Yeah, holding his metaphorical testes.
Or the catcher who's dumb.
Yes.
And he's like, he can only throw to second base when he knows the Playboy model's centerfold's like whole page when he says it out loud. But the other reason that turns me on is I am not a fan of the actor Tom Berenger. Or Bird.
Really?
Bird. Yeah, I just don't like him. I don't know what it is. His lips bother me. His lips look like a Ken doll lips. They're just, when your face, when you get tan and then your lips, like, I know the skin color matches, but our lips are a little different, right? His are not. Look at his lips. Everything is one shade. It's like somebody was painting and just got lazy and was like, screw it, just make them the same color.
I don't even know how you're rationalizing this right now. You could not be
true.
a fan of an actor, and that's totally fine.
No,
but based on the color of his lips?
Because I stare at him. Because what do you stare at? You're looking at him talking. It just bothers me. It's just like, ugh. I'm like, you watch Seinfeld. What's his name? The bald one where he's always like, he can't find a girl because he's so picky. Or like Shallow, the toe. Did you see the toe?
Yeah.
That's me with him in the movie.
Like Eddie Murphy in Boomerang when he's always looking at the chick's second toe to see if it's bigger than the first one.
But also just his acting. His acting is just, I think he's great.
Yeah, I think he's a poor actor. So I'm really not going to disagree with you here, but yeah, I just, because of the lips, not because of his acting chops, because of the lips.
Number 4 is this one. It's more for comedy. Is Mr. Baseball?
Is that the one with No, because that was Mr. 3000 with Bernie Mac, right?
Yeah.
So who's Mr. Baseball with?
That's Tom Selleck.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And he goes to Japan to play.
Yep.
And it's just interesting because that was during that era when in the mid 90s when everybody, I don't know if you remember, but like when the Dodgers picked up Nomo, that pitcher. And everybody wanted to, because he would spin around and pitch, he wouldn't look at the catcher before he threw the ball.
Right.
And so that was during that time. Like they made that movie in the early 90s when we were going over to Japan to pick up a lot of baseball players because there's a lot of good baseball players over there.
Yeah, of course.
And so that makes it for me too because I watched that movie and I could watch that movie pretty frequently. I think it's good. It's not up there. There are a lot of really good movies that can make this list. But as I said, for me, it's watchability. And do I relate to characters like we've said? So that's what I got. But so, Ed is on there.
I can't. Well, we're not going to talk about that anymore because I'm actually a little embarrassed that you have Ed on your list. So, wow, you have Ed on your list. I'm flabbergasted here, dude. I'm not even gonna lie. So I got to talk with you because while I'm not the world's largest fan of baseball, right? I appreciate baseball. the purity of the game, because like you said, it's a chess match between the pitcher and the batter, right? And then everybody else is just a side piece. But it's really this nice game of strategy and talent, and it's really hard to fake it. You know what I mean? Or it's really hard to kind of cheat without just getting it done.
Unless you're the Astros, yeah.
And that's my point, is that the Astros a couple years ago in the World Series, they got caught cheating. And I have a friend of mine, Robert, who is probably the world's largest baseball fan. I'll put him against anybody. You know, he was talking to me, and I typically watch baseball in the World Series. I'll follow every World Series game, and then I'll catch a game every once in a while from there. I don't. There's too many games for me to follow every single game. But so I watched that World Series, and then it came out that they cheated, and they were using was it video cameras out in center field, and they were catching the tells, the signs.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that to me is breaking the purity of that sport, because unlike other team sports, when you're talking about football, basketball, hockey, whatever, baseball has that purity to it, and I felt even not being the biggest baseball fan, I felt attacked by that too, because I felt like it was a bad sportsmanship thing. I felt like it was very, very poor.
I think we're going to disagree a tiny bit, but I got to ask you a question before I find out if we are. When you're saying that when they were stealing the signs, that it was breaking the purity, now do you mean because they were using technology to do it, or because they were just stealing signs in general?
I think it was just because they were stealing signs in general.
See, and that's the problem. You see, because I don't agree with you there, because everybody's trying to steal signs. Like, and for example, I'll give you one in football, right? Like, you know how like the Ducks started doing this. Are you
bringing up Bill Belichick and his?
No, I'm not bringing that up. No, I'm actually going to ask you a question in the sense of, you know how they hold up signs where it's got like a picture of McDonald's, and you know, then you know, it gives the play, right?
On the sideline.
If you were on the other team, would you try to figure those out?
Well, of course I would try to figure those out.
So that's my point. My problem with the Astros was that
I did not say that I have the best. I did not say that I have the best sportsmanship. I just said that I have a problem with the invasion of the purity of the game.
I guess I don't care if they steal signs. I have a problem with the way they did it. I think you can totally go to steal signs. I don't like that they use the technology to do it and the way they went about it. Now, if they just had a center fielder that caught on going, hey, every time he wiggles his pinky, they're going to throw a knuckleball, good for him. Figure it out. But the way they were doing it, yeah, it did ruin the purity of that. Right. But, I mean, there's also, like, the one thing I like about baseball, it's sort of like the In-N-Out secret menu. There's so many unwritten rules. Like, you know, if you hit a home run and you walk, the next batter's getting nailed with a ball. Mm-hmm. I mean, you run your ass. Like the other night, actually, I think it was during the Yankees game, somebody hit a grand slam, and the umpire yelled at the guy to run the bases because he was watching it go over the fence. And it's like, I think people are starting to get sick of it. So I think they're agreeing with you more so, Brian, of we want the purity back. We want the wholesome game that we grew up with and all that. And, you know, and that goes to a point I actually want to get into, is that, like I was saying, you know, I would have tried to steal signs, and I did, and like you were. And, you know, I wasn't always, growing up, I was a good athlete, but I wasn't always the best sport. And that's something I'm really trying to teach my children, right? And I think the one thing that we lose is, to be a good sport, you also have to learn how to have both sides of the ball. And what that means is you have to learn how to win, and you have to learn how to lose. Yeah. And learning how to lose is hard, important. And learning how to fail. Like I went through years where I didn't have a home run hit off me. And I remember the first time I had a home run hit off me, I like lost it. Because I mean, how do you know what I mean? Right. That's like terrible as a pitcher. Right. And watching the other night, I don't want to watch a lot of basketball anymore. Right. I'm sure you don't. I mean, I call it the Allen Iverson era. Once one player could score 70 points and they could still lose. I just was like, what is the point? You know, and I think it's good, but I mean, the game stops so much because you barely touch somebody, and it's the whole thing's got to stop.
Or they flop,
and it just annoys me. But LeBron James, and the reason I'm bringing him up is he walked off the court the other night, right?
He did
when they lost. Doesn't shake hands, and I don't agree with that. I think, you know, you need to do that. You need to, but the thing is, he's always been a winner, right? He was always that kid that we were growing up with that was always bigger, faster, stronger than everybody. I mean, don't get me wrong. He's probably the greatest basketball player of all time. The only way I'll compare him to MJ is once Space Jam 2 comes out, we'll finally get the real answer.
Right.
I've been saying that for years. Whoever has the better Space Jam is the best baseball player in the world to me. But he's never really lost. And it's shown because they even said the stat, like this is the first time he's been knocked out of the first round of the playoffs in I don't know how many years, like, some astronomical number.
I don't know that he's ever been knocked out in the first round.
And maybe
I think he's either not made the playoffs or he's made it past the first round.
Yeah, I think it was either that or like a 10, but I don't know the stat, but I know it was like it's never happened or it hasn't happened in like forever, right? And the way he acted afterwards was appalling. And, like as Charles Barkley says, I'm a role model for these. You don't need to be a role model for my kids. Okay?
Right.
But you need to keep the purity of your own sport that you enjoy. You need to keep you need to act in a way that is important to what you do. It's not that my kids need to look up to you. I'm going to teach my kids the lessons they need to learn anyways. But as I said, I think as a society, we're losing the fact that all we think is everybody needs to be a winner, right?
I agree.
If you're second place, you're the first loser. And we don't teach anybody to fail. And what happens if they fail once, then they quit or they give up or they walk off the court and don't acknowledge anybody else and acknowledge their steps. And have I had these problems myself? Yes. I didn't lose very often. I was a bad sport at times. I'll totally admit it. There were times I've acted like a child about it, and it saddens me because I'm an adult and I shouldn't act that way, and I shouldn't have acted that way growing up. And my whole goal is, and this as a dad, is to teach your children to be better than you were in the situations that you know.
Right.
And I mean, like you played football, right, B-Word? I mean, did you ever have moments like that?
So I had moments where something didn't go my way and I'd get pissed, right? And while I played sports all throughout my adolescence, I wasn't like the greatest of anything, but I played it and I contributed in the ways that I could. But I found in sports that when you lose, like I remember being on the Beatty Middle School. So Beatty, Nevada is this very, very small town in Nevada, southern Nevada. The Beatty Middle School basketball team. And this is in middle school, obviously Beatty Middle School. But ultimately, we had a losing season, the entire season. I think that was my 6th grade year. And my 7th grade year, we actually won every single game. And then in 8th grade, we came and we had lofty goals, we had high expectations, and we also had pride and probably some arrogance. And in a scrimmage, we actually lost to the girls' basketball team. And I remember, because in middle school, girls have a growth spurt before boys do. So the girls were actually kind of tall compared to all of us, or at least compared to the team in general. And so they whooped our ass, dude. I'm not gonna lie. And for me, it was like, especially coming off of that really good season, I felt like, what are we gonna do? And so I do think that being able to lose is good in life because you're not going to get the promotion that you always wanted all the time. You're not going to get accepted into the colleges that you want to apply to all the time. And so you have to learn that. And I think that what LeBron James did last week was just a really poor sport. And I don't think he had to do that. It was reminiscent of, did you watch The Last Dance on Netflix? Michael Jordan's documentary?
Yeah, I did.
So you remember when the Bulls finally beat the Pistons and Isaiah Thomas just walked off the court?
Yeah.
That was not a good precedent to set. And his excuse was that Larry Bird did it when they beat the Celtics. At some point, you have to learn how to fail in order to succeed. And I think that LeBron James is kind of bratty about it, candidly. I think that he has so much going for him positively, and I'm not trying to dismantle the man here. So, don't take it that way. But I want to talk about this instance where he has had so much success on and off the court that when he experienced this failure, was it embarrassment that led him off the court? Was it anger that led him off the court? We talked last week that I'm a big Cowboys fan, and I had Des Bryant on my team for a long time. And the media, sports media in particular, would talk about Des Bryant, leaving the field and throwing a fit and being this Barbie on the sidelines that was inappropriate. And I just don't see the difference between what LeBron James did compared to what Des Bryant was being criticized for, what Isaiah Thomas did. And I just don't like it. For me as a fan, going back to our discussion on baseball, the purity of it, I really like sports to carry that purity. I mean, obviously in the NBA, players are going to flop, right? In the NFL, you're going to try to move the ball a little bit closer to the goal line as opposed to wherever the ref sets it, right? You're going to try to do little things to get yourself an advantage. I don't think that what LeBron James did, created an advantage. And when we're in a world now that has sports figures looked at as role models, and that's why last week I said that, you never know what's in the closet, what skeletons are in the closet when I was talking about Peyton Manning. I think Peyton Manning's a hell of a guy. I think he's done well for himself. I just don't think that he's role model worthy. And I don't think that we should be putting role models on sports figures in general. But I think a lot of that has to do with we as parents need to teach our kids more about sportsmanship and more about how to lose and how to handle the loss and how to make it better.
Well, also how to handle a win. I mean, I always go back to what my mom always said, right? Mama always said alligators is so angry because they got all them teeth and not my mom would always say, 2 wrongs don't make a right, and I would always be an ass and say, well, 3 lefts do, but whatever. Right. Just because Larry Bird did it didn't mean Isaiah Thomas needed to do it. I know that's his excuse, and that's an easy thing to do. The 2 easiest things that people do when they're wrong, and we're guilty of it too, is you make an excuse why, whether it be embarrassment or somebody else did it or whatever, right?
Sure.
To cover up your own fault is, to uncover somebody else, right? The second one is to apologize afterwards. Like, I'm sure LeBron James came out, and I don't know, there might have been a presser where he's like, oh, I'm sorry for that. And it, and it gets to a point, it's like, I tell my daughters, like, hollow apologies mean nothing.
It's true.
So if you do an action and keep apologizing over and over for it, and then keep doing that action, I'm just not going to believe you anymore. And so this isn't the first time LeBron James has did it. Mind you, this is the first time he's been knocked out of the first round or whatever, or whatever the stat is. But it's the fact that you've had attitudes like this and you've done that. And I understand the heat of the moment. And I'm a very competitive person. I've been there. But you're on such a different level. Sure. I mean, and as we said, they don't have to be role models. But the way he is looked at by millions of people in the world, that's how the way I'm going to look at my kids when they're doing this stuff. And I expect them to act better. I hope they act better. And they might not. And that's a learning thing. And that, like I said, there's still a learning lesson for him here. And, I'm not just trying to, like you said, defeat the man and just shit on him this whole time. Because there's plenty of people doing it. There's other bad sports. And I mean, I find you probably find it odd because, like, for me, I love the asshole in sports. I'm a big Mayweather fan. I was a big Bryce Harper fan when he was flipping off umpires and acting crazy. I like that for the game. I think it's fun. It brings a different side, and it creates a villain. Everybody needs a villain, right?
Yeah.
There's a difference, though, if Bryce Harper wasn't just flipping off the umpire, if he was always doing that, like certain players do, like where they can't handle defeat.
Well, and I think that, but just to interject here, I think what if you're the newly drafted player, laying it out on the court with arguably one of the best, athletes to play the sport, and he leaves you hanging. You know what I mean? Like that's where, and again, I'm not, like you said, we're not trying to shit on the man, but I do think, you got a kids movie coming out with Space Jam 2. You've got a lot of different endeavors. I mean, hold your head high, man. You've achieved. And you know what? Sometimes it's best to just cheer on the next generation. And I'm not saying he's done. He'll probably come back for another couple of years because he's LeBron James. But it would be like if Tom Brady lost that Super Bowl against Patrick Mahomes, and then just left the field and refused to shake Patrick Mahomes' hand. Like what would we think there?
Well, because and this is the point. I guess the final point I'm going to make on this. People will always remember you for your faults and not your successes. It's so, true. Like, if we were going to go in the argument with it, is he the greatest of all time? This is always going to be brought up now. it's the same way with like me. I'm not anybody like in LeBron James level, but my company can fire me over one mistake.
Yeah.
I could have 100 great moments, and maybe I might get a promotion, maybe I might get a raise.
Right.
And that's what I try to tell my children. Like, failure teaches you more. And also the fact that you have to be careful of your failures too.
Right.
Mainly because of your own actions, not because you failed.
Right.
It's how you act towards it and how you go afterwards. And like I said, I'm still learning every day about it. There are things that I don't do right. There's still things that I'm prideful and I just say, absolutely not, I'm not going to do that. And will it get me in trouble? Maybe. But teaching that is, I think, very important. And if we're going to talk purity of sports, it's also, purity of sportsmanship is the biggest thing for me going into it. I mean, that's essentially the point I had to make there. I mean, do you have any more on it?
No, I think we've talked about it. And again, I'm not trying to, I don't think that either one of us are really trying to tear down who LeBron James is. Agree with him, don't agree with him in a lot of different levels. That none of that really matters for this conversation. But I do think that just for the purity in sports, you're Jake the hater, and here we are talking about sportsmanship. And that's just how important it is in sports. And I do think that there's a level of integrity that needs to be maintained in sports across. It doesn't matter which sport it is. Because as a public figure, you are looked at in a light that people look up to you, and in some cases that's unfortunate, but in other cases, it's actually quite a blessing, and you really could make a good impact on people's lives. So, absolutely. Well, with that, Jake, I just want to say that our podcast is now streaming on most of the major podcast apps, including Spotify, Pandora, and many more. For more Bleach Brothers podcast content, we encourage all of our listeners to subscribe to our YouTube channel, as well as follow us on all of our socials at Bleach Bros Pod to get bleached. And with that, Jake, you got anything else for us?
Nothing besides thanks for the dirty talk, and come back and get sanitized.